Hi, and welcome back to Pandemic Puppies, Part B. In Part A, we broke down what we're seeing around the world in the United States and Canada. And we're just starting to see these behavioral issues with our dogs that are coming out of the pandemic that have grown up in the pandemic. And as we enter back into society, we want to make sure our puppies are safe. We are safe with our puppies, and we can set our puppies up to win. I do want to jump back, because Jay said something that was really brilliant, the other day in one of the rooms that we were hosting, and it stuck with me. It's like, really get to know your dog, know who they are right now, because who they are right now could be some completely different than who they were, 6 months ago. And so it's really like being that responsible pet parent to be able to connect with your dog or cat, even in that sake, is really to get to know them today. Who are they today? Because that's where you want to begin. You don't want to go with any of these training exercises or suggestions that you guys make here to help with the dog that was yesterday. You want to go with the dog here today. So, Kristin, welcome. Good to see you. How are you doing? Love to hear from you.
Hey, you guys. I think that was up 83%. Is that from puppies that were adopted during the last year, you think? Or?
Yes. Yeah. It's. I've been reading in CNN and I've also the BBC. It's up, and it's it's alarming. It's not and like Jay and Kassie was saying, and Kristin, like in their areas, they really don't hear this, but down in the big cities across America, they're seeing it left and right, and it's just and with Dale was saying, he was talking about that he's not necessarily seeing that, but he's starting to see like what Jay and Kassie's seeing is like behavioral issues, and so that's what's going on.
Really quick, just one quick second. I know there's so much information out there, and I think the really important part to focus on, Michael, especially with so many people sending you these things and asking those questions, is to know that there currently is no government institution or animal organization responsible for keeping track of national statistics for animal protection or welfare or anything else. There is nobody who keeps track of that. So the numbers that we see coming through, it's up in the air. You know what I mean? Which is why I always say, it's important. Yeah, like it's really important to watch specific trends in your area more than anything, to give less of a broad range, if that makes sense. And I think that's where my education before anything else, because like here in Canada, we're completely different across the board, and we also have no institution or anybody in charge of keeping track of those things. So I would say that it's probably something people are starting to see, but anecdotally more than anything. Sorry to jump in there, but.
No, I love that. And, and that's exactly why we have this room, is so that we can hear that, because food for thought, when I do the food for thought on Saturdays, Ryan has taught me a lot about puffery. I'm an artist, and I created a sculpture called Fake News, because, they do inflate numbers. They do, so you really have to read through all that. And that's why I love having you guys here, just so that we can break this down and see what's going on in your areas versus other areas in the United States, because it is area to area. I think the bigger cities are more prone to this than, where there's land around it and homes. So I think it just kind of scales down from like Jay was talking about, the dog that was, in a condo, and it's like, and that's what we're seeing a lot. It's like a lot of people have gotten dogs and now they're worried that they're going back to work and they don't know what they're going to do with their animals. So I think, education, like you said, Kassie, is like such an important tool for everybody to understand and I love the idea that you said earlier. It's just really getting that word out there and having everybody start talking to their clients about the education of that, because sometimes it's like we never know what's really going on behind a person, behind their smile. And that's just in our everyday life. You can meet somebody that has a smile on their face, but then they're having a horrible day. They're completely depressed or something like that. And so that's the same thing that, maybe clients are coming to you guys and they're pretending that everything's okay. So Kristin, did you want to add anything else? I know you asked a question. We jumped over to Kassie real quick, and I just wanted to have you pick it up.
Yeah, just I think that it was surprising. So obviously during pandemic, remember when all the rescues were empty and everybody was like, yay, this is, such a good sign. I did feel that there was a huge window of opportunity missed at each and every rescue, that they weren't pushing through things like training and exercise programs more. Because I dealt with a lot of people that adopted dogs, and nobody was like told by these rescues that this is what needed to happen. They don't even tell people to get things like pet insurance on their animals. So then a big vet bill comes in, and oh my gosh, how am I going to deal with this? And things that, there's the punch you don't see coming in life, and then there's the one that you do see coming. And all these dogs got adopted, even the ones that were really tough. That's when I knew. I was like, there's going to be a problem at some point, because those tough ones, they have behavior issues that make it less pleasant.
I think that's really important. It'd be nice if we had these foundations and they do say that there are a couple of foundations out there helping parents with these issues and all that, but it's kind of crazy.
So, Michael, can I jump in here? Hindsight's 20/20. It always is. Mm-hmm. And rightfully so. Potentially there was a huge opportunity missed, but I can tell you, I've got the red line of death. Hopefully I'm still being heard. Suggesting now, if you've got a puppy, we're locked down, but that doesn't preclude you from leaving the house. We still have, walking the dog or exercising the dog or those kinds of things is still essential. There's still a ton of things that could have been done, even right from the front yard of your house if you're living in suburbia. That's one thing. And I just, in terms of putting stuff out there, and Kassie keeps, the point that Cassie's driving home for me, the one thing that is if she could be screaming from the rooftops, it would be this, and that's education. And so we have some ideas of education here, and that's Dale brought up his 4 steps. Hey, that's education. There are 4 things that Dale said that he gets his clients to do in order to, and in my mind, the big picture there is those 4 things in and of themselves. And even if you don't seek out training, but you go on YouTube, and let's just say, for example, you do maybe a virtual with Jen, or maybe you do virtual with Kassie, or you sign on to sort of a 6 or 8 week online learning system or something like that. Whatever, you implement those 4 steps. That is reducing the surrender rate, because I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole, but that in and of itself can reduce the surrender rate, because you create a sense of stability, and you also create security for the dog, which is going to be, potentially better behaved. Jen said something about planning. It's she said she's plus or minus 3 weeks before she can take any clients on. Okay, so she also said that new pets in your home are still acclimating for 2 or 3 months. Hear that, man. New dogs in your home are still acclimating for 2 or 3 months. So that's
I'm going to
huge...
interrupt you and say it's usually, I'm going to politely interrupt you. I'm sorry. It's usually more than that, longer than 3 months.
Whatever. Let's just use those things for at least. Can we be fair, and let's kind of meet at a starting point and go at least 2 or 3 months, right? So those are what can we do in terms of educating the people? Well, Jen is doing that. She's literally telling people, look, I'm 3 weeks out. So if you want a book for when your puppy has its shots, or your dog or whatever, here's the time frame. Do that. We have one of the rescues I work with. They're getting 50 dogs, and they're receiving them. They're going to arrive in Ottawa, actually from Toronto, Casey. They're going to arrive in Ottawa here where I am at I think it's about 1 a.m, and it's probably going to be pandemonium. So my job, there's a second rescue that's operating, and a friend of mine happens to be the trainer for them. And I said, Jess, why the hell are you making all these handouts? What's going to happen with those handouts? They are going to be placed in a pocket. They're going to be scrunched up. They're going to be put in a file folder, and it's going to be launched in the back seat or in the glove box or something. And then from there, it's going to be oh, where's that thing? And nobody's going to be able to find it. So what I encouraged her to do, and what I'm going to do in order to educate, in order to be proactive, not reactive, is put a YouTube video together. And there will be a link, and these people, every one of those people, those 50 people, are going to be encouraged to go to that YouTube video. And even if they don't implement the strategies that I'm going to suggest they do, at least it's something that's there. Like you can like that proverbial saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. At least I've done what I could do to keep those dogs from being surrendered back to the rescue. And my friend Jessica, she's going to do the exact same thing. Actually, our content is identical. It's just delivered from two different people. And so it's not like we're not trying. It's not like we're actively not doing something. We're trying, but like we're little fish in a giant sea, and it takes time, and we're really at a place where it's catch up. So, but catch up is better than nothing.
Yeah, and I love the fact that you're doing like that service announcement. I think that's so important. And it's like I can, see that actually being used in many different parts of the world, and maybe even the same statement, Jay. Maybe you're onto something there. Trainers here on Clubhouse that I work with, they have online courses, and those baby steps, it's just taking that first initiative, to do one thing and not try to do everything. Donna, I want to get back to you to see if you had any more clarity.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the things I will tell you about the issue about these pandemic puppies and what they're going to be going through.
That's what I love about Clubhouse, is at least this is the starting point where we can have these conversations and bring them back into our community and start sharing them with everybody else in our community. Because I think the more we just do things like you're talking about, Donna, and even like what Jay's talking about, it doesn't have to be a big community. It could just start with just one person, with one video, and from there just going out, talking about behavioral problems and all that. And one of the alarming things that you said to me, Jay, that shared today, was that put a puppy in one home and then transfer them into another home, and by 2, 3, 4, if they're going from home to home, the puppy just has no chance, or the dog has no chance. And we probably are going to be seeing a lot of that. And like what Jen was saying, 3 potentially more months to be able to get a dog to acclimate to their environment. I saw this video on Instagram, and there was this guy with a brand new puppy, and the puppy was cowered in the corner, just really frightened. And he's like, I don't know what's wrong with my puppy. I just got him. He should, I thought he was cheerful, and he was cheerful wherever he got him because he was used to the space. But when he got him to his place, I think sometimes people don't realize they do have to acclimate to their environment, just like us. Like if we go to move to a new country or new state or wherever, we acclimate to our new space. So what Jen and Jay were talking about earlier is like, give it that starting point of, 2-3 months for an average dog that's, well balanced and all that potentially. But then when you get into those deeper issues, yes, it does take sometimes maybe even a lifetime that, you're working with them and just keeping them calm in that situation. So we are getting to the top of the hour, close to, and I do want to go around stage here and just kind of see, Kassie, from everything that we're talking about today, I know education was like your number one thing that you pointed out. Is there anything else that you've thought of?
You know what? Yeah, because I've chatted about pandemic puppies a lot, obviously, recently, and just pandemic dogs in general. And I do unfortunately feel like isolation distress and separation anxiety are going to become an issue in the near future, if they have not already in my area. And outside of that, I know that one of the biggest things we do, and I talked about this yesterday in another room that I did, but I'm going to repeat it here because I think it's super important, is that as a society, when somebody feels that they are not enough for their animal, or not the right home for their animal, or they feel the need to surrender, or whatever the case may be, we often see a lot of people going down really poor paths to do so, if that makes sense. Because so many people have it in their heads that shelters are these terrible, terrible places that euthanize all their animals and all of this crazy thing. And thankfully, where I am, that is not the case. I think I personally work at what is considered no-kill shelter. We do not euthanize animals for lack of space or anything like that. It's strictly medical or behavioral if it does happen. And it's very, very rare. We're less than 3% euthanasia rate. So, however, that being said, Canada does have statistics. Humane Canada keeps statistics on all 117 shelters across Canada, 170. And in Ontario, we have the most amount of shelters compared to any other province. The only one anywhere near us is British Columbia, and they have 8 less than us. So we deal with a lot of this stuff. And I think that as a society, when people can't take care of their animals, we tend to move to not just language, but unfortunately, like body language, how we're speaking to people, the way that the specific verbiage we use when people are, needing to surrender or whatever the case may be. A trainer said yesterday to me in a different room that her clients, quote unquote, abandoned their dog. And I think one of the things that we need to work on besides education is compassion, because you know what? There are some dogs that don't belong in some environments. I see on a regular basis dogs that come from Northern Outreach programs and they come to downtown Toronto and they are terrified. They've never seen a car in their life, let alone, now they've been taken thousands of miles south. They're in the middle of a city. Everything is terrifying for them. And some of them can cope and some of them can deal and some of them acclimate quickly and easily. Others definitely do not. So I think that as a society, we really need to take a look at things from a stance of education and compassion and try to move away from verbiage that blames the owner, that it's the owner's fault they haven't done enough. It's the owner's, that we put all of the onus on the people. And I think that's just not fair, because realistically, we do see animals that can't cope in specific environments, can't deal in, the city structure or whatever the case may be, or, maybe they just have severe resource guarding issues and these people have children and those children just aren't learning what they can and can't do. You know what I mean? So to keep both the animal stable and the people safe, the best choice is a different environment. So I think that was a really roundabout way of just saying that we need to stop blaming the people when these things are happening. And as a society, just look more towards that compassion, because you know what? I think that if I were to say, I understand that you feel you're not the right environment, let's find them the right environment. Let's move forward with this, that a lot more people would be far more likely to choose the route of surrendering to an ethical organization that's going to do everything they can for that animal, rather than, trying to flip their dog on Kijiji or, Craigslist or something along those lines. And I think we'd also remove a lot of people from supporting backyard breeders if we were taking that into consideration as well. So for me, helping those pandemic puppies and just dogs in general, especially with all of the issues we're having where so many people want to help, but then find out, once life goes back to normal, they really aren't the right spot, that we take it from a compassion and education.
I appreciate that. Like I said earlier, we really don't know what's going behind the face. Pandemic parents may look one way, but there's so much other stuff going on behind the scenes. And I think that you pointed out a really good point, is the fact that, does the dog really belong in that home? Or even from day one, they adopted them. But we're never here to blame. So Kassie, I'm going to ask you this really quick, is that let's say somebody or they're in that point where they do have to surrender, what would be one of the easiest steps into that process so that they're not going haphazardly into it?
One of the first things I suggest is actually looking for more than one organization. So as Jen said, just dog walkers and trainers and pet care people are booking 3 to 5 weeks out. So how do you think that looks for a surrender? You know what, right? Like a surrender isn't going to happen within 48 hours of you saying, I need rid of this dog. It's just not. That's not the reality. Appropriate animal welfare organizations look to their capacity for care. If they do not have appropriate capacity for care, they will not intake that animal until they do. So not only a medical ability to cover any expenses that are necessary for that animal, but also from a behavior standpoint, also from how many places and houses and fosters or, kennels in the facility do we have? Rescues look at the same thing. So one of the first things I say, honestly, I try to divert surrenders as often as I can, whether that's through, subsidized or free training, subsidized or free veterinary care and all of those fun things, subsidized or free food, things like that. There are pet food banks in pretty much everywhere across the United States, Canada, Europe, the Southern Hemisphere, the whole nine. Pet food banks are a huge thing. A lot of people donate to them. A lot of people use them. If you're just going through a monetary issue and, you feel like you'll be back on your feet, go to a pet food bank, get the help when you need it, and then pay it forward when you don't. There are so many ways to divert those surrenders, but if that person feels like there really is no way past where they are and what they're doing, I suggest looking for many organizations that are ethical. So if you're looking at a shelter, look for a no-kill shelter and specifically ask that question. If the shelter can't be upfront and honest with you and tell you, what, if there's a medical issue that, the quality of life of the animal will go downhill and we don't have room for palliative fosters or whatever the case may be, we may potentially euthanize. Great. You know what? They've given you the truth and that's what you're looking for. If the truth doesn't align with your values, move on, right? If you're looking at rescues, find rescues that use appropriate, humane, up-to-date, science-backed training and behavioral consultations and all of that fun stuff. And apply to more than one. Apply to 10. Apply to, however many. You can even ask a lot of rescues and things like that. Find the most comprehensive intake form from whichever rescue and ask other rescues if they would take that form so you don't have to fill out 15 of them. But the more options you choose, A, the faster response rate you're going to have, and B, the sooner someone's going to be able to help you. So I always say, look at more than one, and follow the process. If they're going to ask you, if they call you and say, hey, look, I've seen some flags on your intake form. It says that, you may potentially be dealing with a dog that has aggression issues or reactivity issues, or even just something as simple as anxiety or minor resource guarding. And they have questions for you. Answer those questions to the best of your ability. Don't hide anything, because those are the people that want to help you. And they're looking for your dog's past and history in order to help, not completely tell, but in order to help and predict future behavior, right? So be as honest as you can, because they're asking for a reason. And it may be because they don't currently have capacity based on their behavioral ability to take on your animal. And they're going to be honest with you about it. And they may ask you to re-surrender later or try again. But if you have 10 or 15 organizations that you've looked at, you're probably going to find one a lot sooner, if that makes sense. So that would be my kind of really quick rundown, although it wasn't all that quick. I apologize for that.
Try to rush into it. So if they're feeling that, they should start doing their homework and just reaching out to as many facilities, like you said, because that's so important. So they're not just stuck with just waiting on one. And I think the other thing that is a big key that you said that's so important, because us as humans, when we're always like, oh no, I can do it, I can handle it. And that's the same thing here. It's like, don't be afraid to ask for help, because like Kassie said, these places are there to help you. So be full transparent, be authentic in what your story is and everything that's really going on with the dog, because they're there to help you. Great, Kassie. Thank you so much. Jay.
Sure. You said them at the top, at the beginning or halfway through. You said 1, 2, 3 words: build your team. Those were your words. That was a summation of something. So build your team and fill that team with empathetic people, whether you're getting a puppy, whether you're getting an adolescent dog, or you have an adolescent dog that you've rescued, or you're thinking about getting a rescue dog. Build your team with empathetic people, because your team will tell you what works best to keep the dog in your home balanced and happy. So what does that look like? Hey, Michael's calling Jay. Hello, Jay. Hi, Michael. I'm thinking about adopting a dog in Toronto. Where do you live? I live in Oshawa. Cool. I know this awesome trainer named Kassie in Toronto. She deals with one of the rescues there. Why don't you reach out to her? Because that's a really good starting point to you. And then maybe Cassie's busy, but guess what? Kassie knows Jen. And so, Jen has a dog walking training, pet sitting gig going. So Kassie puts you in touch with Jen. And then you say, you know what? The dog's a bit reactive. No problem. Guess who I know? I know a truffle hunter. And she can do stuff and help you, or your dog doesn't necessarily have to be a round dog. So you see a real-time build, how a real-time you can build your team now and then implement that later in order to keep the dog in the home.
Yeah, I think Yeah, I think they're your support team. And that's what you really have to look at is like, they're just not there as workers for you. They're actually your support team to help you succeed and your dog to win. Kristin, last minute thoughts?
Sure. Jay, I love that. It's like a breadcrumb trail when you're building your team, and you're right, it works exactly like that. So, I think my parting thoughts would be, I have loved this conversation, and I love everything that everyone is saying, and it's very forward thinking. And so I want to throw one other piece in there for people to maybe reflect back a bit on things that have worked, things that have created a stable environment, that have given you the education that you need, that have established a team, that have done it where maybe you didn't see it, except in hindsight. And I think that's a really good learning opportunity for all of us, because like everybody knows, hindsight is 20/20. So let's use it, and let's identify what are some things in the past that are going to be really helpful in the current situation. And that came to mind for me because that I didn't know that my clients were going to do as well as they did during this time, and for the reasons that they did. But in hindsight, I can now see why, and I can understand that picture. So that's my suggestion is, let's keep the forward thinking, let's be proactive, let's keep doing all of those things, but let's also honor the hindsight and use it to our advantage.
What you're talking about, Kristin, the hindsight of what was the past and where was it working, and perhaps start there with your dog, because that's probably where that's getting to know your dog, who he is today. Jen, last minute thoughts?
Actually broken now. I'm just kidding. But yeah, so I think that, we're sharing a bunch of information today, and I think that that's super important that we keep sharing information, instead of keeping it for ourselves and maybe using it down the line. So this is why I really like your rooms, Michael, because we're so open to asking questions and sharing the important things. And I love that all of your questions have had to do with building our team. Like everything that we've talked about, it does come back to building our team. So I think that the more we're sharing with each other, having these conversations, the better prepared pet parents will be in the future, because they're here listening in the audience. And, feel free to DM any of us. We are always open to talking with people. I know that everybody up here has a ton of resources. If we're not the team member for you in that moment, there's going to be somebody else that we can help you find. And so I think that that's super valuable, to use the people that you know and trust and have heard from and have asked questions of, who have been really respectful to you and answering those questions. So I think that DMing each other and making sure that that we're all, able to get the information that we need when we need it is super important. So keep sharing that information. And then also the other thing, last quick thing is, I like that we've talked about looking at the individual dog a lot without actually saying that a whole lot in this room. I think it's super important to take each pet, whether it's a cat, dog, tortoise, whatever, each pet for who they are in that moment, that day, and to just do all the things that we can to help them thrive and help them feel loved and comfortable. So anyway, that's my last tidbit. Thanks, Michael, for doing this room.
I love that, Jen. Thank you so much. And yeah, also invite you to embrace our information and reach out to us if you need help and, you don't know where to go. If we don't know it, we know so many people now from, around the world here off of Clubhouse that we can definitely point you in the right direction. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and close the room. Thank you everyone on stage for joining me today for another wonderful room with Pandemic Puppies. Let's keep the education going and supporting each other. And Jay, I love the fact that you're going to be doing that YouTube announcement. I'd love to hear it once you get it done. And everybody in the room, have a wonderful day, evening, wherever you might be. And we will see you soon. Remember, build your team. I'm Michael, and I'm out.